Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about the August full moon, otherwise known as the Sturgeon moon. We're going to be covering the different types of magic that you can perform at this full moon. We're going to be talking about what full moons mean generally in Wicca and paganism, and what some of the astrological influences will be. So first of all, as I do in every full moon video, I want to talk about what the full moon means generally, because that helps to inform us. It always helps to just remind yourself of what a full moon generally means in a kind of magical sense. So with the full moon, it's all about receiving the efforts that you put in over the course of the lunar cycle, from the new moon to now, of course, the full moon. So it's about reaping the rewards of your hard work. It has that harvest energy to it, and it also is governed by the mother aspect of the goddess in Wicca. And this goes really nicely with the current Sabbat that we have just had of Lunar Sad, and how that is also about harvest and also about the mother goddess being in the full version of her mother archetype. So with that in mind, the full moon this month peaks on Monday the 3rd of August, either in the late morning or late afternoon, depending on your time zone. And as I said earlier, it's also referred to as the Sturgeon moon. This is because the Native Americans of North America found that the sturgeon fish, which is I think a really large fish that can live for a really long time, they would find that this type of fish was much more readily available to be caught at this particular time of year, so that is why they named this full moon, particularly in August, the Sturgeon moon. However, there are alternative names for this full moon in August, such as the wheat cut moon, the full green corn moon, the blackberry moon, I think, and the moon when all things ripen is another one. So you can use any term for this full moon that you like. Obviously some of the ones I just mentioned might resonate more with you a little bit than the Sturgeon moon, due to the fact that sturgeon are pretty rare to encounter these days. Their numbers have dwindled slightly and they're found in lakes, so if you're not living near a lake and they're quite rare, you might not resonate with the sturgeon particularly at this time of the year. You might resonate more with the other full moon names talking about other things that are going on right now, such as just the general ripening of everything and the wheat being ready to be harvested. But it still is worth thinking about the fact that, generally speaking, this time was always regarded as a great time to just be catching fish. So this full moon has also been called the salmon moon as well. So you don't have to think about sturgeon particularly, it can be any kind of fish. It's just generally more plentiful at this time of year. So this full moon coming up on the 3rd of August is actually the first full moon we've had since February that has actually just been a normal, regular, I suppose, full moon. All the other full moons that we've had have all been either supermoons or lunar eclipses up until now. This means that the energy will be a little bit more expected of a full moon at this time. There might not be so many conflicting influences, but regardless, your psychic energy and your physical energy will surge upwards in the build up to the full moon, during and after the full moon, as this happens every month with every full moon pretty much. And these also could manifest in strange or unexpected ways, so that's still something that is worth bearing in mind. Just because it's not a super full moon or a lunar eclipse moon doesn't mean that you won't be affected, and doesn't mean that your magic at this time will be any less powerful. So the interesting thing about this full moon specifically is that it occurs in the zodiac sign of Aquarius, with the sun still being in the zodiac sign of Leo, as I talked about in my video before the last one maybe. But if you're interested, you can check that out and learn all about the sun's influence right now in the zodiac sign of Leo and how that might be affecting things too, especially in conjunction with this full moon in Aquarius, and thinking about how those two zodiac signs will interact with each other on that day of August the 3rd. But generally speaking, the zodiac sign of Aquarius brings with it the energies of inquisitiveness, innovation, and liberation. So this is very important and a really exciting time for us, as this sign of Aquarius comes opposite the sign of Leo in the sun. So these two signs of air, Aquarius, and fire, Leo, are both fixed signs. So again, in my Leo video, I talked about what the quality of fixed means, but essentially it means that both of these signs can be quite set in their ways, a little bit stubborn maybe, a little bit convinced of their own rightness, and can sometimes be inflexible. However, both signs of Aquarius and Leo can be highly creative, highly bold and daring, and expressive. So with these two rather forceful signs coming together, this could be a great time to really put yourself out there, perhaps in a way that you haven't done before. expressing your creativity with boldness, with confidence, and not being afraid to share your gifts with the world any longer. So some points of reflection for this full moon that might be worth thinking about could be that number one, we've just celebrated the Sabbat of Lunarsad or Lammas, the Sabbat in honour of the Celtic god Lu, the shining bright god, and as we have just passed that Sabbat to honour the god Lu, it could be really interesting to think about that in conjunction as well with the sun being in the zodiac sign of Leo right now, and you can check out both of my videos on both of these topics to give yourself a little bit more information on that aspect of things. But the main gist of it is there is this very rich, full and abundant energy going on right now, especially with the triple goddess in Wicca being currently in her mother aspect and the full moon also being governed by the mother aspect. There's just a lot of very ripe and giving and abundant energy right now that is really amazing, and that I think we could all really benefit from and take advantage of as well. So this really is a time to be radiant, to radiate love from our hearts as Leos do, but also to perhaps be a little bit radical and rebellious compared to maybe what you have been, bearing in mind that as these two very forceful fixed signs are coming together, that we may fall into the trap of being aggressive or being a bit too extreme with the ways that we express ourselves. So just making sure that we're mindful of that, make sure that we ground ourselves and tune in with the earth so that we don't get too carried away with all these airy and fiery energies. This is a great time to be able to express confidence in an area where you may not have felt able to, but just make sure you don't go too far and become too forceful with maybe forcing your ideas on anyone. Just take a step back and make sure you breathe, but go forward with confidence and high self-esteem and knowing that you have a lot to offer the world. So as we all know, the full moon is a really great time for performing magic or witchcraft of any sort. But what you can do for this full moon specifically in this month of August 2020 is being aware that anything that you charge under the moonlight, be it moon water, crystals, tarot decks, anything that you like, anything that absorbs the moon's rays and the moon's energies at this time will be filled with that bold, creative expression that Aquarius and Leo bring with them. So with that in mind, this full moon could be a really good month for collecting moon water perhaps, which I've talked about as well a lot in my previous full moon videos, where you leave out a glass jar filled with water overnight and let the moon's energies be absorbed into it. And essentially what you can do this month specifically is you can use that moon water for work in future spells relating to confidence and creativity in the future, in the year to come, or maybe even next year. If you ever feel yourself lacking in inspiration, lacking in confidence and drive, you can get some of this moon water that you have saved from this month and perhaps put it in your bath and kind of infuse yourself with that energy again, or use it in a room spray or even in tea. So there's a lot of different things you can do with that moon water and the energy that will be in that moon water for this month's full moon. As this full moon is also referred to as the blackberry moon sometimes, or the moon when all things ripen, now would also be a great time to mindfully gather herbs and berries perhaps, giving thanks for the harvest and the abundance of the mother goddess at this time of year. You can also link this really nicely with any kind of Lammas or Lunarsad practices that you did, because the moon does actually become full only 2 days after the day of Lammas itself. So for this full moon specifically, I think more than any other full moon that we might have had in the year so far, this would be great for integrating the practices that you do for this full moon with the practices that you might have done or still be doing for Lammas or Lunarsad, as both the Sabbat and the full moon time, they are so close together, and the themes that they have also going through them are really similar, so it would really work nicely to fit those two together, I think. Remember, you can also give my last video on Lunarsad a watch if you want to be given some ideas of how you could celebrate Lunarsad belatedly, or the full moon as well in conjunction with that, linking up your Lammas activities with your full moon activities. All sorts of ideas are there. So thank you so much for your continued love and support, guys. Please leave a comment of what you're planning to do for this full moon time and what this full moon specifically in August means for you, how you're interpreting it. And thank you so much for watching. Have a magical full moon time and blessed be.